Good evening. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Belinda Adhiambo, and Friday night starts now. And we begin our broadcast with the KAA AA Clash that turned ugly. 5 pupils at Meru Primary School fainted Friday morning after police officers lobbed tear gas canisters into the school compound, which is adjacent to Governor Mwangaza's office, where protesters staged demonstrations. And as Marianne Nyambura reports, protesters in the neighboring Maua town burnt the Meru County revenue roadblocks, while others took off with water tanks that were reportedly distributed by Governor Mwangaza.
It was a race against time for these pupils at Meru Primary School to conduct first aid and save the lives of 5 of their fellow learners who fainted after they were tear-gassed in school. Supporters of Governor Kawira Mwangaza and those against her clashed outside the Meru governor's office. Police had to use tear gas canisters to disperse them, and the pupils were caught up in the crossfire. Officials from the Kenya Red Cross would later come to their rescue.
But it was accidentally.
The school management condemned the protesters for storming the school and disrupting learning.
There are some who have jumped through the fence kuingia shule, which was bad. But nikaambia watchmen wafungue na watoke sababu wakiingia huku sasa watafanya mambo yao mabaya.
In Meru town, running battles were witnessed for the better part of the day as supporters from Kawira Mwangaza's faction and those opposed to her clashed in public. Police would then fire tear gas canisters to disperse them.
Lazima ashuke. Hatumtaki, tumechoka na yeye, tumempea the 2 years. Hakuna kitu amefanya. Mara ya kwanza akakuwa saved, mara ya pili akakuwa saved akitifanya huko Senate. Vile alienda kulia huko Senate, akujangi alie huku Meru hivi.
Sisi kama wa Meru tumechoka. For the last 2 years hakuna development tumepata ndani ya Meru. Tumemwona akipeana ng'ombe, akipeana gumboots ambazo hazitusaidii.
Protests also turned chaotic in the neighboring Maua town, Igembe. The demonstrators burnt the county revenue collection roadblocks before another group descended on the sub-county administrator's office and made away with water tanks that were reportedly distributed by Governor Mwangaza. Kawira Mwangaza's supporters had divergent views on the current stalemate.
Sisi tunashukuru koti zetu. Tunaheshimu koti zetu. Tunashukuru makoti zetu kwa ile heshima mmepea wa Meru.
Koti order imetolewa, hawezi ngoja. You can go and challenge that order in court.
The High Court halted the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza until a case filed is heard and determined. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV.
And classrooms remained deserted for the 5th day on Friday as the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers escalated its nationwide protests. The union, expressing frustration over the Teacher Service Commission's handling of their demands, pledged to continue with the boycott until their issues are resolved. The protests were reported in at least 10 counties, as Ben Kirui reports.
For the 5th consecutive day, teachers from the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education (KUPPET) were absent from their classrooms and took to the streets to pile pressure on the Teacher Service Commission for a resolution to their ongoing disputes, with those in Nairobi camping at the TSC headquarters to air their grievances.
We are at the TSC head office to bring to the door of the employer the issues that we have that propagated the strike and the consequences that they have on the teachers and the learners.
The teachers voiced their frustration with their employers' handling of their demands, accusing the TSC of trying to intimidate them into returning to work.
This strike is legal and protected, and we are against any arm twisting by the employer by going to court in order to demand that teachers must stop the strike before any talks begin.
I want to reinforce the issue of stagnation. I have a teacher at Embakasi Garrison known as Madam Kwamboka, who has been in one job group for 20 years. I have another one in Ofafa Jericho known as Mr. Muiruri. The students these teachers taught have come back to class and they have gotten serious job groups than the teachers themselves.
Mimi nataka niulize TSC washuke from the ivory tower. Waongee na walimu. Hatutaki vitisho ya TSC. They should not sit on that. Na waache kukimbia kotini ati wanatoa court order. Court order had been overtaken by events.
Protests were reported in at least 10 counties, with the teachers expressing that despite their readiness to end the boycott, the TSC has continued to overlook their demands and the government has offered only empty promises.
We have seen and we have witnessed a lot of stories from the media, a lot of stories from His Excellency the President, the Minister of Education and the CS Treasury that are completely saying different things to these teachers.
Mwalimu yoyote ambaye anaonyesha tu dalili kuenda shule analaniwa kabisa. Watoto waende nyumbani wafundishwe na ulimwengu.
Key demands from KUPPET include the full implementation of the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement, teacher promotions, enhanced medical coverage, and the conversion of junior secondary school JSS intern teachers into permanent and pensionable terms.
Hii medical cover sisi kwetu hapa Garissa haitusaidii. Tunashinda kabla mwalimu kutibiwa, lazima upige simu mpaka uende kuongea na CEO wa Minet. Ndipo sasa mwalimu apate matibabu.
KUPPET power!
Power! Mwalimu ikiwa atataka kutibiwa kwa dharura, by the time hiyo pre-authorization wanasema mwalimu ameshakufa.
The teachers from KUPPET have maintained that until their demands are addressed, the streets will remain lively and classrooms deserted. Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has urged members to remain steadfast in pursuing their rights. The Union Secretary General Akelo Misori says they have acknowledged the progress achieved over the past 5 days of the nationwide protests. The union is now calling on the Teachers Service Commission, TSC, to demonstrate leadership and work towards an amicable resolution of the strike.
If it was not for this strike, the CBA could not have been implemented. If it were not for this strike, we would not have gotten the commitment from Cabinet Secretary for Education and Finance to give 18.7 billion in commitment to engage our 46,000 teachers. If it were not for this strike, the health of the teachers would have been compromised. So we cannot in any way. So we are ring-fencing these gains and we are asking our members on this coming Sunday to throng all religious shrines in the land, churches, mosques, to pray and arm themselves for the mother of all paralysis starting on Monday next week.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed a third case of Mpox disease in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. In a statement, Health Director General Patrick Amoth says the third laboratory case is that of a 30-year-old female who has a history of travel to Uganda a week ago. Dr. Amoth says the patient is undergoing treatment in an isolation facility in the region. 89 samples have been submitted for testing, 79 samples tested negative, 3 samples tested positive, and 7 samples are undergoing analysis. Now, 582,847 travelers have been screened across the country as the Ministry of Health assured Kenyans that they are prepared to manage and diagnose the disease. The ministry says 2 patients diagnosed with Mpox from Taita Taveta and Busia counties fully recovered and were discharged from the isolation facility. Kenya has secured a 40 billion shillings loan from China to help in unlocking stalled projects in 15 counties. National Assembly Budget Committee Chair Ndindi Nyoro says the deal inked by the two countries will see contractors go back on site as soon as the month of September. And as Stephen Leto reports, some of the projects never took off while others stalled midway.
With President Ruto making development tours across the country, the egg on the government's face are stalled projects that have exposed the government to ridicule and sharp criticism. In some instances, some projects never took off since they were launched, while others stalled midway. To wipe off that shame, the government has secured a 40 billion shillings loan from China to jumpstart the stalled projects dotted in 15 counties where contractors had fled sites for lack of money. Budget and Appropriation Chair in the National Assembly, Ndindi Nyoro, says the country's budget is under pressure from the stalled projects and heavy funding required by infrastructure projects, with a greater headache being the pending bills accrued.
For the last 10 years, we, of course, beat more than we could chew. When it comes to infrastructural projects, we started so many, we ended up having a lot of stalled projects. Most of these stalled projects are in roads, where we have commitments of over 800 billion shillings.
The new funding from China targeting 15 counties is also expected to spill over to neighboring counties where the roads stretch.
We took around 15 projects spread across many counties. Roads that have not been done over 20% in terms of the works done.
Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringo had stalled projects, one being the Tot Asigor Road that cuts across the two counties, now set to benefit from the new funding. In Embu, Kanywambora Road has been identified having stalled for some time, while in Kiambu, Laini Gasharage Road has been earmarked for a marathon construction. In Kisii County, Rioma and Marani Road have been listed, while in Kirinyaga, the 95-kilometer road project dubbed the Belt of Gishugu, which snakes through all the 5 wards in the constituency, with Piai Murianduku Road said to be part of the new government intervention. Makueni's Tower, Nguluni, Itagine Road will also see contractors on.
The contractors are expected to be on site hopefully by the month of September. The beauty about these 15 projects is that they are long. They have like 90 kilometers, 45 to 42 long trunk roads. Na hizi barabara tumepata funding ya mpaka kukamilika.
In Nakuru, the government has pumped part of the money to the Njoro, Piston and Elbagon Road that has stalled for some time. Counties also listed in the quick government intervention are Nyeri, Taita Taveta and Nyamira. The Budget Committee says it is working to regularize allocations to pending bills that currently stand at 150 billion shillings in infrastructure projects. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto has once again reiterated his call for unity, vowing to ensure uniform development for all regions across the country. Speaking in Siaya County on his 3rd day of the Nyanza Region Development Tour, President Ruto made clear his commitment to boost agriculture and the blue economy to enhance livelihoods of those dependent on the two sectors. And as Laura Otieno reports, the tour also saw ODM leaders reaffirm their position amidst fears of an imminent crossover of the Orange Party from the opposition side.
The President's Development Caravan today snaked through Siaya County, kicking off the busy morning at the Mageta Island, where the head of state launched a 230 million shillings mini solar grid. The project, implemented by REREC, will see more than 1,700 families connected to the grid and boost the region's prospect in the fishing subsector by supporting the setting up of more cold storage facilities.
Tuhakikisha kwamba hiyo samaki iko hapa, blue economy resources tunazitumia katika kushirikisha mambo ya food security na mambo ile ingine ya kupanga biashara na mapato ya wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Energy CS Opiyo Wandayi, vowing to fully implement the last mile connectivity project, which has seen the government pump a total of 1.3 billion shillings to light up Siaya County.
We have not joined your cabinet halfway. We have joined it fully. And we commit to work with you to the fullest possible extent in the service of these people and all Kenyans.
Hata Yesu Kristo alianza Jerusalem ndio aende Judea. Kwa hivyo ukiunganisha stima Kenya, anza hapa Unguja na Siaya, alafu uone Kenya.
This, even as leaders allied to ODM disparaged rumors of a possible folding of the Orange Party, indicating that the party was still committed to its role of being the government's watchdog.
Sababu sisi ni multi-party democracy. Sisi kama wana ODM tutazidi kujenga chama cha ODM, tutaiunda, tutaiweka iwe na nguvu, alafu tuongee tukiendelea mbele, sisi tukiwa nyuma ya Raila Amolo Odinga.
By any means necessary, 2027 tunazungumza habari ya lugha kushikamana na kuingia ndani ya serikali kikamilifu. Wangapi wanakubaliana na mimi?
Sits within an integrated...
President Ruto also commissioned the Siriwa rice mill in Alego Usonga and launched the construction of an ultra-modern market at Sidindi area. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Right, and the Teacher Service Commission says the second phase of a salary increment that was due last month has been paid to teachers. This follows assurances by President William Ruto and the Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos Ogamba that the dues would be paid latest today. The full implementation of the second phase of a collective bargaining agreement entered into in 2021 has been backed by the Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly, which has assured TSC that the necessary allocations will be factored into the supplementary budget once submitted.
The Teacher Service Commission says it has made good on a commitment to see a collective bargaining agreement entered into with teachers in 2021 is fully implemented by Friday. TSC says the second and final phase of the CBA was effected on Thursday, in keeping with assurances given by President William Ruto and Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos Ogamba that teachers would be paid what they were owed latest Friday. In keeping with the terms of the CBA, teachers were due a second salary increment starting July, but due to budget cuts stemming from the rejection of the 2024 finance bill, the TSC was unable to meet its end of the bargain. TSC's failure to honour the CBA, among other grievances, led the Kenya National Union of Teachers and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers to threaten industrial action starting Monday. A threat the latter made good on.
Solidarity!
In response, Treasury made available 13.5 billion shillings to make good on the terms of the CBA that runs to the 30th of June 2025. Under the new terms, a grade B5 primary teacher 2 will receive a basic salary of 23,830 shillings on the lower end of the scale, while a grade D5 chief principal will receive a basic salary of 162,539 shillings on the higher end. 87% of 407,609 teachers will also benefit from a review of the clusters, which dictate how much teachers receive in housing allowance and which are determined by where a teacher is based. What were 4 clusters have been revised down to 3, with those who fell under Cluster 4 lumped in with those who qualified for the higher Cluster 3 allowance. Teachers engaged in Nairobi received the highest amount in housing allowance, followed by those in the cities of Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, and the municipalities of Thika, Nyeri, Kitale, Kisii, and Malindi. All other areas are now clustered as one. while the housing allowance for a grade B5 teacher remains 3,850 shillings. A grade C1, who previously received 5,000 shillings and fell in cluster 4, will now receive 5,800 shillings, while a grade D5, who previously received 21,508 shillings in housing allowance in cluster 4, will now receive 3,492 shillings more. The Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly says it will do its part to ensure teachers receive their dues.
So if monies are needed for the CBA, then they would actually be okay spending the monies that are already provided for, so that if there is a deficit later in the year, in the financial year, we are likely definitely to have a supplementary too. Then supplementary is to supplement. Then we would end up supplementing that budget.
Olive Burrows, Citizen TV.
And it's reprieve for former Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulal and businessman Dathi after the High Court released the two on a bond of 10 million shillings, each with one surety of a similar amount pending appeal. The two moved to the High Court to challenge the sentence issued to them yesterday by Magistrate Thomas Nzioki. They argue that the trial magistrate erred in law and fact in failing to consider a crucial and substantial fact that the county government of Samburu's value for its money and that goods were ordered and delivered. The High Court judge, while granting the two bail, said that the issues raised are arguable and are critical questions that the appellate court must grapple with. And families of the Quara murder victims are now living in fear following alleged threats from detectives investigating the murders. Some of the family members say the threats and intimidation have forced them to relocate to their rural homes. Volunteers who helped to retrieve body parts also claim to have received threats from the detectives.
Volunteer divers who held fort in retrieving body parts from Quara dam site claim they are under constant intimidation and threats from DCI detectives.
DCI walisema kwamba ukitoa mwili hapo itakuwa ni wewe mwenye umetoa hiyo mwili ndio utakuwa accountable. Hiyo mwili mbona umetoa na hiyo mwili unajua uliweka hapo kwa maana wewe umeiona mali iko. So DCI alikuwa ametutishia sana hiyo wakati.
So nikali kumaanisha ya kwamba tukifika pale tutekelewa ile kesi ya kwamba sisi ndio tumefanya zile kitendo.
The threats have forced family members to flee to their rural homes in fear of being attacked. They claim to have been receiving threatening calls from strange numbers since they took part in the DNA exercise.
Hata sikia sasa mimi peke yangu niko Nairobi, others wametoweka wako mahali penye tujua kwa wapi tukiendeni. Hatujui mahali penye tunaishi watatukujia ama hapana.
Speaking at the Mukuru Community Justice Center offices in Nairobi, flanked by several human rights activists.
Hili swala la Quara, serikali pamoja na polisi wanajaribu kuficha ukweli kujulikana. Kwa sababu hata hatuelewi kwa mfano kwa nini wamesitisha shughuli ya kuopoa miili kutoka pale.
Families of the victims are now asking the government to resume the search of bodies in the Quara dam site.
Kama wao wanatuambia mwili hauwezi peanwa nusu na shughuli ya kutoa miili pale ilisimamishwa, itakuwaje kama huenda kipande moja iko pale kwa maji na wao wanatuambia tungojee mpaka tupewe mwili ikiwa full? Wakiangalia kwa zenye ziko pale mochari ikosekane hiyo kipande ingine nusu na shughuli ya kutoa miili ilisimama, hiyo nusu itapatikana aje?
On Tuesday, 4th August at 11 a.m., we, along with other concerned citizens and organizations, will have a delegation visit the office of the President to present a comprehensive list of those that have been killed and disappeared since the onset of the Gen Z protests, including Quara killings victims.
The community remains on edge as they wait for justice and closure.
The Ministry of Health has released new tariffs to the benefits package in the new Social Health Insurance Act medical scheme. Health Cabinet Secretary Dr. Deborah Barasa has confirmed that the Linda Mama program for expectant mothers will be incorporated and enhanced to sustain the gains in reducing maternal mortality rates in Kenya. Cancer patients will get a cover of up to 400,000 Kenyan shillings for various oncological services. Safin Achieng Ouma details what Kenyans stand to benefit under the medical scheme ahead of its full rollout in October.
Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa led stakeholders at the National Validation Forum for the new tariffs to the benefits package under the Social Health Insurance Act in discussing strategies to attain quality and affordable health care for all.
Literally, we have taken Afya to households.
It was during this engagement that Barasa confirmed the inclusion of the Linda Mama program into SHIF with an enhanced package for expectant mothers.
The tariffs for normal delivery under SHA have been increased to 10,000, that's for normal delivery, and for C-section or cesarean section up to 30,000. And we are not only covering mothers, but the whole family.
Under SHIF, patients with diabetes seeking outpatient services provided in level 4 to level 6 facilities will get a cover of up to 4,300 shillings. Those dealing with hypertension, 2,850, while those having sickle cell anemia, 6,800 per year. The tariffs for inpatient services in level 4 to level 6 hospitals with a limit of an admission of up to 180 days per household will be 3,360 in level 4, 3,920 in level 5 and 4,480 in level 6. The package for the management of kidney failure in level 3 to level 6 facilities will include 10,650 Kenyan shillings for hemodialysis and hemodiafiltration services per session. Diagnosis, staging and treatment of cancer has a limit of up to 400,000 shillings for various oncological services ranging from chemo administration, PET scan, CT scan, MRI, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, brachytherapy, among others.
We have tried as much as possible to get a benefits package that is still comprehensive. It provides the entire range of services from preventive, promotive, curative, rehabilitative and palliative.
2 years after rollout, those who lose their loved ones will get a cover of 3,000 for embalming and 500 per day for storage of the body for 5 days before burial. The Social Health Insurance Act had been declared unconstitutional by the High Court in July on grounds of, among others, lack of proper public participation. A 3-judge bench suspended the 3 acts for 120 days for the government to rectify the inherent illegalities. CS Barasa expressed optimism that all was set for the rollout on 1st of October this year.
I want to urge every Kenyan to take proactive steps to ensure they are registered as members of the Social Health Authority.
Can we roll out to 100%? And yes, we can. But this is a collective effort. It is not an MOH effort.
SHA will offer first level of access benefits to all Kenyans.
Both salaried and non-salaried Kenyans will make a monthly 2.75% contribution of their income to the fund. Safin Achieng Ouma, Citizen TV.
We're taking a very short break, we're bringing you stories including a school that has completely gone paperless. The visually impaired children there, those that are completely blind and those with low vision are now using computer technology as an assisted device way of learning. We'll be getting to hear this as told through the story of Judge of Appeal, Laibuta, and we will be bringing that very shortly to you right here on Friday night.
Avieta ya Shabiki.com inakupa the biggest multiplier in Kenya. Shinda up to 50,000 times your stake. Yani ukiweka stake ya 100 bob, ndege ipeperuke, unashinda 5 million within seconds. Changamkia Avieta on Shabiki.com. Not for persons under the age of 18. Authorized and regulated by BCLB license number 428.
Welcome back. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has maintained he is the official opposition leader after the exit of Raila Odinga from local politics. Speaking in Mombasa ahead of his 3-day tour of the region, Kalonzo says the decision was made by over 20 Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party affiliates. Azimio co-principals Eugene Wamalwa and Jeremiah Kioni reiterated that Kalonzo Musyoka was the second senior-most political leader in Azimio after the departure of co-principal Raila Odinga, who launched his bid for the African Union Commission earlier in the week.
Discovered where the actual opposition in this country is. It is with the people. It's no longer with the leaders who have decided to go elsewhere. And we as leaders here, led by our official leader, are with the people.
Wakati captain anaondoka kwa team, akienda kucheza continental match, captain anatoa ile captain's armband anapeana kwa deputy wake na mechi inaendelea. Ni vyama vyote vya Azimio intact. Ni chama kimoja kimeingia serikalini. Na ndio sababu tumesema wale tumesalia kwa upinzani, by consensus, sote tumemuunga Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka kwa our new captain, our new leader, and the leader of opposition. And of course, he'll be working with our parliamentarians. Kina Junet, Senator Wambua ako hapa. Tuko na viongozi wengine ambao wako kule bungeni who will be working under Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and in consultation with him.
De facto, na mimi mwenyewe sikujitangaza, ni hawa. Waulize hawa. Waulize hawa. 23 of them, waulize hawa. Wengine pengine hawajachukua hata msimamo. Hatutaki kujilazimisha. Hatuwezi. Mimi sio mtu wa kujilazimisha kwa mambo haya. But I also want you to know leadership comes naturally. Wakati mwingine wana grab kidogo. Wana grab. Because uwezi ukapatiwa kama birthday cake. You have also to fight. You fight for your space, particularly guided only by the principle of standing together with the Kenyan people.
Kenya has banned the export of wood veneer in a bid to protect its forests and expand its tree cover to 30% by the year 2032. Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale says the unregulated harvesting of immature trees by foreigners is threatening the success of the government's restoration efforts, as well as loss of billions in revenue. And as Emily Chebet reports, the foreign countries who are on the spot are said to have entered the Kenyan market after being chased away from the neighboring Uganda and Tanzania.
Despite a formal ban on eucalyptus exports to China, Chinese companies operating in Kenya on the spot for the illegal export of eucalyptus veneers and other raw materials. The rampant harvesting of immature trees by these foreign companies, who are said to process tons of trees in a day, has rattled Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, who has now been forced to suspend the export of raw veneer materials.
And because the people want money, they are cutting very immature trees before even they reach the 10 years. And then they export them to China and India. And then they convert them through very addition for that stuff that will be used in making marine boats. Okay? And then they export back to Kenya. So Kenya shipyard, everybody who wants to make boats will buy from them at very expensive.
In a document seen by Citizen TV on the 10th of July 2024, a Chinese company by the name Feiteng Company Limited transported 420,000 kilograms of eucalyptus veneer, the destination in the document showing Mombasa. On the 17th July 2024, another company, Jinsen International Wood Industry Company Limited, transported 29,900 kilograms to the same destination. Corner Hardware and Supplies Limited transported 28,500 kilograms of eucalyptus veneers to China on the 22nd June 2024. The Chinese operations are in various parts of the country, including Londiani, Gilgil, Uasin Gishu, Kinangop, Meru, Kisii, among others. According to Duale, the government is losing billions of shillings in revenue, while the foreign companies are taking advantage of Kenyans.
When they're exporting, because there's very little duty on exports, like the month of June, Kenya Revenue Authority have given us information. They have exported, I think, 750 containers. The revenue the government got was 5 million Kenya shillings. Now we need to protect local investors.
Kenya's timber manufacturers have been sounding alarms over the increase in unregulated cutting of young trees from farmers who are in need of money. Duale says the practice not only threatens Kenya's reforestation efforts, but also undermines the country's economy by bypassing local tax obligations.
How do we convince private sector players, government, Kenyan citizens to plant trees when there are individuals who are coming to our country, cutting with brokers, cutting the immature trees, and then send it to China? And from information I have, they did the worst. In fact, they did the worst this in Uganda and Tanzania, and they have been chased.
Veneers are beautiful thin layers of wood that have become valuable in global trade, particularly in markets in India and China. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
And hundreds of residents in Kisii County received free medical services, including correctional surgeries, from a team of doctors from the United States of America. The medical camp, organized by Mairura family in collaboration with the Royal Media Services, was held at the Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. The residents have urged the government to make medical services available for all Kenyans.
As a foundation, it was important for us to meet our goals in terms of what the mission for the foundation is. Our goals are really to address the health disparities that are present globally. And so we came with a team of healthcare providers, approximately 17 to 19, some of whom are here and some of whom are not. Our goal was to really run a free orthopedic camp and clinic. So we've been doing this now. This is the fourth and final day.
Obviously, there is some differences in our healthcare system. I think the biggest thing is access to health. Being in a smaller community, a town like Kisii, there's one hospital versus several hospitals back in the state in one area. So patient load is very dense here.
Thank you to the Kenyan government for having us, as well as the Kisii County and the hospital. They've been tremendous in helping us get the things that we need and just supporting us while taking care of the patients.
And I believe our doctors, the way they might have learned, exchanged good skills which have been given by God. The quickness, the fastness they were handling us.
Sasa ndio nimeona sikujua nitaweza, yani mtaweza saidia mimi vile mmesaidia mimi.
And hundreds of residents from Kibirigo town in Nyamira County took part in a career clinic courtesy of Agesa FM in collaboration with other institutions. Led by Agesa FM head of radio James Gichana, elected Agesa listeners thanked Royal Media Services for sensitizing the youth about the importance of blue-collar jobs for their sustainability in the future. The event was sponsored by Agesa FM, Nyamira National Polytechnic, Credo Faster, and Bartmore Technical College. Agesa FM fans also had a rare opportunity to interact with their favorite presenters. The station is one of the 14 radio stations under the Royal Media Services stable.
Hili la Kibirigo linajulikana sana kwa mambo ya masomo, kwa sababu tuko na taasisi za masomo ziko hapa hivi karibu, na tunashukuru wale vijana ambao wamejiandikisha siku ya leo kuingia katika zile taasisi za kiufundi, kwa sababu vile tunaangalia Kenya mahali inaelekea inahitaji watu ambao wako na skills. Na tunashukuru Agesa FM kwa sababu tumefanya awamu ya 15 sasa. Leo ilikuwa ni awamu ya 15. Awamu ya kwanza tulifanya, ya pili, ya tatu, na leo ilikuwa ni awamu ya 15. Na muda wote wale mashirika wote ambao wameshirikiana pamoja na sisi tumesaidia vijana wetu, na sana sana wale mayatima hawana uwezo wa kuingia shule.
Leo tumekuwa hapa Kibirigo, tumeweza kufurahi sana kwa sababu tumepatana na customers wetu, tumeweza kuwahimiza waendelee kununua credit na sisi. Hadi tumewaletea mshindi wa shilingi 1,100 hapa. Tumefurahi sana kushirikiana na Egesa.
Wametusaidia watoto wetu. Kwa hivyo tumefurahi. Kitu kabisa tumenufaika sisi kama watu wa hapa, na tulikuwa tumerequest Egesa FM ilete ikuje pande hii na mawingu, na tumeingia mpaka mashishani. Sasa watoto wametoka mashishani.
Leo ndio nimeona ukweli. Nilikuwa nafikiria ni uchanja, maybe wanatudanganya, lakini leo nimeamini kuwa ni ukweli.
And now to the story of a man who has excelled against all odds. His journey to the bench is a powerful testament to resilience, determination, and the pursuit of justice against all odds. Overcoming the challenges of visual impairment, Dr. Kibaya Imana Laibuta made history as the first blind judge in Kenya's history. His appointment to the Court of Appeal not only reflects his personal achievements, but also symbolizes a significant step towards greater inclusivity within Kenya's judiciary. Tonight, Judge Laibuta walks us through how he seamlessly integrates technology into his work, using screen readers and other assistive tools to deliver judgments, publish books, and mentor the next generation of legal professionals. In of Judge Laibuta was a first for the bench. He is Kenya's first blind judge. He lost his sight after a medical accident when he was in his early 20s.
Life is like a marathon, but mine is in the dark because I am blind. I don't run in light because I don't have the advantage of appreciating light. So I called it a race in the dark. You know, I wrote that poem. It was during a holiday. I had gone to Thika School for the Blame for Rehabilitation. And when we went on holiday, you left your equipment behind. This poem couldn't wait for me to come back. So what I did, I told my young uncle, get me a foolscap, a ruler, and a pen. And I penned them, you know. Roses are bright illusions. Pinks, whites, and reds of roses. With brittle sparkles of little reality, mingling, twinkling of life.
Back then, he was mostly familiar with the Braille. Braille is a system of raised dots that can be read with the fingers by people who are blind or who have low vision.
My first interaction when I did my master's at the London School of Economics, I'm told that here we do not type essays, we process them on computer, and you're forced now to get a laptop and begin. Little did I realize that it was really going to transform my life.
This experience opened Judge Laibuta to a world where advances in technology like screen readers,
the audio will tell you what you are doing. Play together.
Yeah. Which convert text into synthesized speech, enabled him to have access to things like websites or texts without the need for Braille. The screen readers are also built into many existing models of smartphones, enabling one to access text messages.
This is a Braille display.
Oh, okay.
Device.
Okay.
It displays electronic text in Braille.
Okay.
The Braille notations you can hear.
Years after, he earned respect as a law expert and full-time practitioner. Today, he sits at the Court of Appeal.
The Court of Appeal works virtually, and I work from home.
Yeah.
I have researchers based in different parts of this country. They're not in Mombasa with me, they don't sit with me. I have a secretary who sits in Nairobi. And it's all about coordinating and working together. And as a court, other judges sit quite, in different locations, in their home libraries, home offices, and things like that. And that's how we work. You see what technology does for us.
Judge Laibuta says he enjoys a good book.
It said that there is no instance in modern times of a Chuzzlewit having been found on terms of intimacy with...
With the use of audiobooks, he can enjoy novels and other published works through sound alone.
My phone here, I have a library of 267 or slightly more audiobooks, ranging from 6 to 41 hours of book reading. And it's something that I can carry along in my pocket and handle almost just about every manner of information, social media, mail, take calls, write text, and so forth. I will listen as the robot reads.
Having literally been thrown into the deep end with his first encounter with computer technology, Judge Laibuta purposed to work towards empowering persons with disabilities through technology.
What are we doing to equalize opportunities for our children at the basic education level, at the secondary school education level, at tertiary colleges? Yeah, Braille is out of, it's already outdated for them.
Yeah.
It's no longer the years a child would write an essay in Braille, is taken to someone else to transcribe, and the sighted teacher has to read the transcription and award marks. Kids should be able to process their essays, their exam papers on a laptop.
In his efforts to see to it that young learners are better supported with assistive devices, Judge Laibuta mentors learners at the Salvation Army Likoni School for the Blind with the Enable Computer Labs for the Blind program, which has employed assistive technology, computer instructors, and enrolled visually impaired students and teachers.
We are putting computer technology in the hands of young learners, just so that even as they come to the tertiary education level, they are quite proficient. As they go into employment, we hope that employers will be able to at least be obligated to actualize reasonable accommodation and fund their computer accessibility needs.
Learning here is paperless. Blind children and those with low vision start by mastering the keyboard
F7, F8, F9, F9, F10.
After which they are introduced to typing skills
2.10 application
with the help of a screen reader. Charity is a teacher here.
Umefanya assignment yangu Hamisi? Haya, umeona assignment swali ilikuwa inasemaje?
Computer, what is computer virus?
Very good.
She was once a student at this school.
In the year 2017, it was my first time interacting with computers. It was my first time seeing computers physically, face to face. But I built interest in computer. I used to spend my time here, and after graduating from high school, before that, I did a lot of projects concerning coding when I was still in high school. Being that I'm a computer instructor in a school where I studied, I believe I'm a role model to these kids, because most of the time you hear these learners saying, I want to become a computer teacher like Teacher Charity.
Teacher Sami was initially opposed to introducing computer technology to these children.
I believe it was impossible for a blind person to learn computer. That was what I had in mind, because I knew Braille and I knew everything should be in Braille. But due to technology, Braille is cumbersome, Braille is bulky. But as far as IT is concerned, you can go in, look for other materials, relevant materials, which will support learning.
According to the Kenya Institute of Special Education, KISE, the lack of assistive devices has seen learners shun education and even confine themselves in the house. The construction of the first of its kind factory dedicated to producing, assembling and repairing assistive devices will empower persons with disabilities in Africa. This promises to ease the burden of access to crucial tools and position Kenya as a regional powerhouse in supporting special needs education.
The problem comes when those who face those needy situations usually don't know where to go. But I can assure you, if you reached out, say, to Kenya Society for the Blind, to Enable, to KUB, Kenya Union of the Blind, to KISE, for example, they'll be able to tell you, you need this, this is where you get it.
The story of Judge Laibuta is that of Kenya's first blind judge who envisions a world where every individual has all-inclusive access to the same educational, technological, and employment opportunities.
You are worth everything that you require to scale your heights. All you need is position yourself, be aware of your special needs, get to know how to address them, get the right support mechanisms. They may not always be there. Invest that rare shilling into it, but most important, invest in yourself. And how do you invest in yourself? Begin by believing in yourself.
Court of Appeal Judge Emmanuel Aibuta telling you it's all about believing in yourself. He has scaled those heights. He is giving back to the community by empowering children to make it easier for them and to enable them to play on a level playing field, that is the visual impaired, to play on a level playing field to their able-bodied counterparts. We are taking a break, but before that, news just in from Kenya Power indicates that there is a nationwide blackout. The reports from them indicate that power has been lost, affecting the national grid in Nairobi and other parts of the country. Kenya Power calling on people to bear. Let's talk business, but before that, just a news update here in News in Kenya. Power has confirmed partial power failure across the country, but the North Rift and parts of Western Kenya are not affected. Kenya Power confirming partial power failure across the country. The North Rift and parts of Western Kenya not affected. The Kenya Power is calling on you to bear with them as their teams establish the cause and effect resolutions. Let's talk business now. And Old Mutual Holdings has posted an after-tax profit of 327 million for the first half of this year, thanks to reduced financing costs during the period. The Pan-African firm is now keen on optimizing its operations as it looks forward to getting back into dividend-paying streams. Dennis Otieno reports.
In the first 6 months of the year, Old Mutual Holdings cemented its grip on the profit-making territory, realizing a net profit of 327 million shillings. This compared to a loss of 195 million shillings suffered during a similar period last year.
Our focus has been on generating profitable top-line growth. If you look at our growth top-line, 15% on our gross written premiums, life sales 17% up. Our funds under management are 51% up year on year.
Old Mutual attributes the performance to reduction in finance costs, which fell from 1.8 billion shillings to 529 million shillings. The firm also benefited from improvement in its effective tax rate, which decreased from 150% to 70%. Despite the positive results, the group did face the challenge of a decline in operating profit, which dropped 27% from 2.2 billion shillings to 1.6 billion shillings.
Our short-term business in Kenya had a number of flood-related claims. You do recall the floods we had in Q2. And in keeping with our promise, we are honoring those claims.
Going forward, Old Mutual, which operates an integrated financial business model, is optimistic of a positive second half of the year as it aims to get back to dividend-paying streams.
It's a journey towards paying back dividends. 2022, loss after tax of 2.2 billion. 2023, just a loss of 100 million. We are now at a profit after tax of just about 300 million. So you can see, if it's a journey, we're traveling in the right direction.
Dennis Otieno, Citizen TV.
Insurance service provider Britam has announced a 370.8 million profit after tax rise to 2 billion shillings in the first half of the year ending June. This is up from 1.64 billion shillings registered during a similar period last year. The underwriter's performance was largely supported by both their insurance businesses as investment activities slowed down owing to high interest rates. Jimmy Mbogo now reports on their growth that has largely been in new markets, particularly those targeting the youth and SMEs.
In the period under review, Britam recorded a 31% increase in gross earned premiums, reaching 26.7 billion shillings. This growth in premiums saw the insurer's revenue surge to 17.8 billion shillings, reflecting a 7% increase from 16.6 billion shillings in the same period last year. The company further reported a 150% increase in investment income, which reached 13.3 billion shillings. An increase that the underwriter says was driven by robust investment strategies that capitalize on market opportunities, particularly in the fixed income and equity markets, despite high interest rates.
Because of the deliberate activity we took to match our liabilities, long-term liabilities with long-term investments, our short-term liabilities with short-term investments, we have fared better than most in terms of our investment income.
But despite the growth, Britam has not declared any dividend payout, even as return on equity grew by 6% to stand at 21%, while assets grew by 5% to 231 billion shillings. Blaming the lack of a dividend payment on an accounting issue owing to a significant loss recorded in 2020.
Our not paying dividend is not a reflection that our shareholders' funds and values are not growing. It is actually just an accounting technical issue that we have to exhaust accumulated loss before we pay a dividend.
In the period under review, the underwriter notes that claims worth over 100 million shillings have been settled. Gitogo further noting that there has been a notable increase in claims owing to flood-related damages that were recorded both in Kenya and other markets. The underwriter, however, remains cautious over the contribution of their asset management business owing to an elevated interest rates, which offers investors better returns.
So the outlook for us is still positive because we are now relying more on our insurance businesses rather than our investment income to deliver strong results.
With a 43% market share of microinsurance, Britam says it will be looking at this segment as well as other growth markets, even as the Kenyan business remains steady. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And Jubilee Holdings has posted a net profit, I beg your pardon, has posted a net profit of 2.5 billion shillings for the first half of 2024, up from 2 billion in the same period last year. This performance, the group says, was driven primarily by the strong results of its core businesses and technology-driven efficiency. Jasmine Wamboi brings us the details.
Jubilee Holdings has announced an interim dividend of 2 shillings per share on the back of improved profits. The group has announced a profit after tax of 2.5 billion shillings for the first half of 2024, an upswing from about 2 billion shillings in 2023. The group's balance sheet also showed strength, with total assets increasing by 6% from 191 billion shillings to 202 billion shillings. The asset management division contributed to this growth with the introduction of new products and branches, propelling retail assets under management to the 4 billion shilling mark. Jubilee Holdings crediting its strong performance to the success of its core businesses, Jubilee Health and Jubilee Life, bolstered by its digital transformation efforts. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi is calling for collaborative efforts by countries under the Eastern and Southern Africa Anti-Money Laundering Group to combat money laundering, terrorism financing and proliferation financing. The CS saying that a coordinated fight against money laundering and extremism financing will protect the region's financial integrity at a time when 50% of African countries grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force come from the Eastern and Southern Africa region. His investment, trade and industry counterpart Salim Vuria has echoed these sentiments, saying that the weak financial crime controls in the region have hindered investments.
The implementation of this sixth strategic plan requires adequate resources. Our organization should be well resourced to function effectively, including meeting the obligations of partners in the global network. Let us also ensure that our anti-money laundering activities in our respective countries are well resourced. This will facilitate addressing the strategic deficiencies identified in our respective anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing regimes that present a risk to the integrity and stability of the financial system and the safety and security of our citizens. It would also save us from the FATF grey list, which has had a negative impact on some of our members.
And therefore, when we are doing this access to markets and attracting investments, the issue of money laundering and prevention of terrorism is a very critical element that also brings us to the table. Because we also believe that some of the issues, the deficiencies in these processes are also responsible for creating an attractive